Hello everybody. Welcome back for another video. Hope you're all doing well. Hope you're all remembering to drink water. It's very important for you. And that you're all having a great day for those of you looking to secure and keep your cryptocurrency safe. There's a Ledger link in the description below. I do not work for Ledger, therefore the affiliate link. Another. You'll see. It's going to be an interesting news day. The last couple of months have been quite trying for the cryptocurrency market. However, we continue to, and this always is. I promise it's weird for me as well. The weirdest part is that the news that we keep getting is absolutely spectacular. There's no real slowdown. There's no real bad news that we're getting, except for constant news of tariffs or potential extra tariffs or other things that might slow down the economy. However, besides that, if you've seen any of the last couple of videos, we've been getting a lot of accumulation news, a lot of growth news. So for some reason, the last week, we've gotten a lot of new company buying Bitcoin. Company that bought before is buying more Bitcoin. We've gotten a lot of European news, which we typically normally don't have within the cryptocurrency space that often. That this bank is accumulating crypto. This bank in Germany is going to start custodying crypto and working with institutional investors. BlackRock, as we mentioned before, launched their first Bitcoin ETP, exchange traded product. It's basically an ETF, what have you, within Europe as well. And I think the Amsterdam Stock Exchange, the Paris Stock Exchange, and third one all announced they're all getting into crypto as well in some form or fashion. So, yeah, the good news keeps rolling in. Still confused as to why prices are this low, and I'm going to say that until we have a $500,000 Bitcoin. A lot of analysts, how do I say this? They've kind of mentioned that we're in a brand new dimension within the cryptocurrency space. That Bitcoin, and I lightly quote here, is no longer a speculative asset. It's kind of everyone in every country is accumulating it at the exact same time. But this then also leads to the questions of exactly how much manipulation is happening, just because of all this interest around Bitcoin. The most popular news story that we've gotten for a while now, GameStop, the video game company, the one who was super popular a couple of years ago during, what do you call it? Coco Roro, 3-4 years ago, and all the, you've seen the documentary, you've seen the Netflix movie, all those other kinds of things. Back in the news, GameStop has announced that its board of directors have unanimously voted to add Bitcoin to its treasury reserves. GameStop has become a meme stock through its online popularity and association with non-traditional forms of finance. The company said it would be using cash, debt, and equity sales to buy Bitcoin. A lot of companies have done this, and more so in the last 2 years, because it appears to work. In that, MicroStrategy was also just it was a small software company a number of years ago, but buying Bitcoin has caused their stock to surge. I think it was MicroStrategy stock that went up by 999%. I'm pretty sure that was it. I'm pretty sure it's them. Over the course of the last couple of years, it completely outrageously surged over the course of 2 years. And this is where we get Metaplanet doing the exact same thing, basically issuing debt against the company, using extra cash that the company has, using some form of equity, and then using all of that to buy Bitcoin. It is it has worked for MicroStrategy, and therefore everyone else is trying it as well. GameStop has survived after all these years in some form or fashion through popularity, online stuff. It's really weird because even years ago, a lot of analysts basically said, and this is like 2020, that if they just pivoted to like just online games or kind of became a like a Steam kind of thing, or just had their own online portals where they had online games that people could get them from there and rent them from there, blah, 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 blah. They would have done just fine. But here we are now, and they're kind of more or less using Bitcoin as kind of like their, let's see if this one works, which for other companies it has. GameStop further announced that it would also buy stablecoins. What? Announced that it would also buy stablecoins to embrace a digital future of business and digital money. Why would you do that? I could understand if they partnered with a stablecoin company. That would make more sense, but buying stablecoins, unless they're buying them to like get a yield from them, actually makes very little sense. On the 1st of February, GameStop had nearly $4.8 billion in cash, enough to buy a I remember this now. Do you remember around January, there were rumors that GameStop, Microsoft, and other company were going to buy Bitcoin? Apparently, the whatever people in Microsoft said a resounding no, but there were rumors that GameStop was going to do it. And part of the news is that they had a huge like amount of cash just kind of sitting around, if you will, in bank accounts. And people thought that they were going to use, the other company was Dell. And people thought that they were going to, what is that on my hand? Why is it so red? Okay. And people thought that they were going to use all of their cash reserves to buy Bitcoin. And I was like, yeah, but then what if Bitcoin's price goes down, then all their cash, so that doesn't, yeah, so I'm slowly remembering now. However, the company said it didn't lower how much Bitcoin it could buy. On the 25th of March, GameStop in their SEC filing wrote, we announced that as part of our revisions to the investment policy, the board approved the addition of Bitcoin as a treasury reserve asset, alongside US dollar-denominated stablecoins to diversify the company's investment portfolio. A portion of our cash or future debt and equity issuances may be invested in Bitcoin. We have not set a maximum amount of Bitcoin we may accumulate and may sell any Bitcoin we may acquire, end quote. GameStop's earning report for quarter 4 of last year had $1.28 billion in revenue. So cool. I'll say it this way. If Bitcoin succeeds, then it's on the other hand as well. What's this red stuff on my hands? How bizarre. Okay. If Bitcoin succeeds, then GameStop will also succeed in their endeavors. I've said this before. These are very wealthy companies, and it's not like they're not going to make it in some form or fashion. Apparently here it says they're trying to raise $1.3 billion through a bond offering. Who knows how much of that is going to be used directly for Bitcoin, but this is very MicroStrategy-esque in its approach. When we do get news of how much they have raised and then subsequently how much they've also purchased, people will probably be very excited. I think their stock went up by like 12% upon the announcement. I assume, as I've stated before, other companies have done this. Their stock and company valuations have gone up, and I assume this will happen as well for GameStop. No word yet if they're going to allow crypto for like actual purchases, which would also be quite genius because that's a very easy way for a company to be able to accumulate cryptocurrency, is by allowing people to pay for video games with crypto. So yeah, we'll see exactly where this ends up going. This was very popular news. I was actually quite shocked because sometimes we get news like this and there's maybe one article floating around and I was like, oh, okay, people actually are paying attention to this. That's the GameStop is trying to raise over $1 billion to purchase a large amount of Bitcoin. And yeah, let's move on. Also in news, I think that was meant to be scary. There's a lot of this popping up, and it's usually worded and or phrased in a sort of way where we're supposed to be like, but why not? What's going on? Why do this? The United States Securities and Exchange Commission is taking a cautious approach in expanding crypto investment options, delaying key decisions on exchange-traded funds tied to Ethereum and Solana. The agency recently postponed its ruling on whether the CBOE-BZX can list options on Fidelity's Ether ETF, pushing the deadline to the 14th of May. If you weren't here or haven't been paying attention, the US SEC has currently, I think the number's 47 different cryptocurrency ETF applications. They have 17 alone just for XRP. On top of that, a lot of these companies have been submitting rule changes where they're trying to get the word staking put into all of the Ethereum ETFs. The other issue, if you will, happens to be that a large number of these ETF filings are also for meme coins. Yeah, there's some Dogecoin filings, there's some Shiba Inu filings, there's a Melania filing. Not joking in the least. And we had news previously that it looks like people are trying to actually test the limits and the patience of the US SEC to see exactly which things they're going to allow through. We've seen historically that the SEC has been quite difficult with getting things through, and then kind of everything got through. But this is why we're also seeing Cardano, Avalanche, Hedera. What's the other coin? There's some other random coin that's also there as well that's also trying to get ETFs. So they're still exercising the SEC's right as they've done before, where basically they tell people, we're gonna give it a little bit longer to look through more of the paperwork. But this time it's actually relevant because usually they would get around 2 Bitcoin ETF applications the entire year. And now it's 47 just for altcoins. That's not including the other Bitcoin and additional Ethereum ETFs that are trying to go through and all the rule changes and also the SEC options. There's a lot of options that that BlackRock is trying to push through as well. So yeah, the deadline has now been pushed to the 14th of May. If you missed before at any point, another reason why analysts have said quite loudly that they believe that April, May, and June are going to be great months for the cryptocurrency markets. It's basically because a number of the ETF applications actually come due in April. So during April, we should be hearing of approvals for multiple different ETFs for some of these coins. If none of them go through, prices will go down. If some of them go through or all of them go through, those altcoins prices will rise. By the time we get to May, a number of these other applications are also due. So we should probably be hearing about 5, 10, or 15 of these things either getting a yay or a nay. If we hear multiple times in April and in May that XRP, Litecoin, Cardano, Solana, Avalanche, and all these other coins get the go-ahead for ETFs, their prices will probably surge. A lot of, and last thought here, what I keep reading is that, and I don't know if they're just Ethereum-centric analysts, but people think that the moment we get word that the US SEC has approved staking on these ETFs, that moment is when ETH will surge and then altcoins will also follow. So there are a lot of people who are looking for the larger cap coins, but the other coins would also do exceptionally. Let's be honest here, XRP, if out of the 17 filings, if 12 of them go through, the price will rise. You don't necessarily just need Ether, but it would not hurt at all. Meanwhile, asset manager Franklin Templeton has filed for a Solana ETF with the CBOE BZX, proposing that the fund be allowed to stake its Solana holdings for additional rewards. This is a really big thing right now. Apparently, we're hearing that the reason, air quotes, that the Ethereum ETFs haven't been doing as well as whatever is because of staking. So any Solana, Cardano, Ethereum ETF that's going to be proposed or pushed through is probably going to have the staking clause somewhere in their wording. So yeah, meant to be a big month. We've been going over that for a while. If you've been with the channel for a number of years, we tend to follow the things that analysts say, and if they actually end up coming true. Realistically, we should have been going up in price for a while, but the world is a little bit topsy-turvy. So on top of that, April, May, and June look poised to be like good months for the cryptocurrency space. If we hear any kind of good ETF news, then, thumbs up. That's the SEC ETF delay until the 14th of May news. And yeah, let's move on. So I found this shocking. I found this very shocking, and I don't know what to do with it. Story time. A number of years ago, back in 2017, the cryptocurrency market was doing exceptionally well. Got it. Towards the end of the year, we started hearing that a number of brand new coins were going to be launched and created, and they were going to rattle and shake and turn the cryptocurrency market on its head. They were Tron, Cardano, and EOS. EOS is a coin. It was the largest ICO that we ever had. So like digital online blockchain fundraising for the project. I think Ethereum's ICO raised like 17 million or something like that. Yeah, for those of you who don't know, Ethereum was also an ICO and also was partially a pre-mine. A lot of people forget that part. Other ICOs raised around like 35 million. One of them raised like 45 million. EOS, however, raised 1 billion with a B, 1 billion US dollars. It was promoted to all of us as this super, ultra, hyper, mega crazy chain. And we were told that the $1 billion that the creators raised was going to be used for the ecosystem. The point of EOS was meant to be so we don't have them as often anymore because of laws and rules and regulations. Has to do with airdrops. An airdrop is basically, at least in the olden days, if you held 1,000 XRP and there was a new coin being put onto the XRP ledger, you would then receive 1,000 of that new coin. Every time, years ago, if you held Ether, if you had 50 Ether and some new coin came out, you would receive the equivalent amount of Ether, of that new coin based on how much Ether you has. One of the last ones that we got was the Bored Ape Yacht Club thing when they created ApeCoin. I forgot what the airdrop was for, but if you missed it, people had been collecting those NFTs for a while, even when they were worth nothing. And there were some people who received like $400,000, $500,000 worth of ApeCoin during the actual airdrop. It was like crazy. So EOS marketed itself as kind of the airdrop blockchain. So if you remember, there used to be a podcast for EOS, and we were told that weekly there were going to be 20 new coins created on top of the EOS blockchain. So therefore, if you had 1,000 EOS and you had 20 new projects every single week, you were probably going to be receiving around $20,000 worth of free coins every single month. Super huge incentive. I'm sure a lot of you remember this. And then all of a sudden, over the next 2 years, the developers kind of disappeared. They weren't posting on Twitter. They weren't posting on social media. They weren't posting anywhere. They kept on. People were asking them questions. When is this going to happen? And they were like, don't even worry. We have $1 billion. It's going to be just fine. That transformed into multiple years of hearing absolutely nothing about EOS. And then there was like a community vote where people basically, I think if I remember correctly, like locked the accounts by vote of the creators who also were still had access to all this money that was raised during the ICO. That then became was it Dan Larimer? I think one of the creators of EOS announcing that they were going to be creating EOS 2.0. And it was going to be the same project, but rebranded. And they were going to do all these amazing things. And then for a year and a half, we heard nothing. And then they announced that they were going to be doing something else and partnering with other companies. And then also nothing else. So when I saw this, I was like, just let it go. Like you don't have to lie. I don't know why the lie has been going on for so long, but this is apparently the next iteration. The EOS network, a blockchain that launched in 2018 amid the initial coin offering boom, has apparently rebranded once again. EOS apparently has rebranded to Vaulta, VAULTA, and will pivot to focusing on Web3 banking. There's a lot of hype. The word's not energy. There's a lot of hype right now surrounding anything AI or anything Web3, especially Web3. These are just buzzwords that people throw out there to try and get people to think that it's something brand new, innovative, that you need to be a part of from the get-go. We went over that last year when all these AI coins were popping up, and I told you they weren't going to do anything because you didn't need an AI coin. That fell apart. And then the entire idea of AI agents came out, and I told people to watch out for those coins because they weren't also going to be doing anything. And now Web3 is rushing back into the news. Web 1 basically being like Windows 95, like the original old internet. Web 2 is supposed to be like social media, like, you know, the new form of the internet that we have where we can interact with each other more. Web 3 is basically meant to be like crypto and things happening digitally and this transaction happening automatically and smart contracts to buy homes and blah, 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 all that other kinds of stuff. So yeah, they're pivoting to Web3 banking, which isn't a thing, by the way. So that's going to be interesting. The switch to Vaulta is tentatively scheduled for the end of May and will include a new token and the establishment of an advisory group known as the Vaulta Banking Advisory Council to help with the firm's new direction. The company said in a statement in the middle of March. Fantastic. In a separate statement, the firm said that the EOS token will transition to the Vaulta token, which will be available on nearly 140 exchanges where EOS is currently available in May. It added that the token's ticker and technical details will be revealed at a later date. And here's the tweet for it right here. I feel like at this point, the jig is up. Like you don't... I think they're doing this because there's a lot of money at play. And I think they still have a lot of money that they want to use. So I think the easiest way to do this is basically to announce, hey, look, we're changing. Oh my gosh, metamorphosis. Look at what we're doing. Web3 banking isn't a thing. And anyone choosing to do Web3 banking in the future, basically the idea of digital custody, digital blah, 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 or like a platform, and I say this in the most honest way possible because I'm exhausted with EOS. They also had, what was that other thing? They had something a couple of months ago where they were trying to incentivize people to like restake their EOS, and they were offering like 30, they were offering a 60%, 60% return on anyone who staked their EOS, and it's like, so anyone looking to actually do Web3 or Web3 legally or Web3 with liquidity is probably just going to go to Coinbase or to Binance, or I assume Kraken has some sort of a thing as well. So I think at this point, if they just left, nobody would really be upset or really care, simply because they keep doing this over and over. But yeah, they're rebranding to Volta. It is, let's say, April, May, June, July, August. I'm going to assume in August, we'll probably get some kind of another update from them about what they're planning on doing. January 2026, we will hear of some other light rebranding for this as well. By July 2026, they will announce some kind of a fundraising round. None of this is written here, but I'm just assuming from what they've been doing for the last couple of years. Whoever's on this new advisory council is probably the same people who were working and making and creating and doing EOS all these years. And then by the beginning of 2027, they'll announce some other kind of initiative that they're also pivoting to as well, because just kind of let it go at this point. I would feel far more confident if they just kind of like announce like, hey, you know, we're going to try and merge with Cardano, or we're going to try and make a layer 2 on top of this chain, or we're exclusively, I don't know. It's a little weird, but I think it's definitely meant to be that way. But it's gigantic shame that you raised $1 billion and then did absolutely nothing with it. So yeah, I told you in the beginning, it was going to be a little bit of a weird news day. A lot of, except for what's on screen, a lot of good stuff is happening. A lot of good stuff continues to happen. And this is what I think leads to the frustration of a lot of people within this market. As I always say, we keep getting good news and we keep getting expansion news and buying news, and this company's doing this news, and it's just a matter of it like actually making sense within the market. We've heard that for every billion dollars that's used to purchase Bitcoin, its price goes up by 3 to 5%. Let's see if something happens. I do hope that you've all enjoyed. I do hope you all are having a great day, morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are, wherever the heck you might be. I do hope it's absolutely fantastic. Thank you all once again for watching, listening, liking, commenting, and supporting. And I will most certainly be talking to you all soon. See you.